You're walking home, minding your own business, when suddenly red and blue lights flash across the pavement in front of you. An officer steps out and asks if you have a minute to talk. In the next 6 minutes, we are going to build a concrete playbook to handle moments exactly like this. You will learn the exact scripts to handle questioning, refuse searches, and navigate an arrest without guessing. Consider this an active drill. When a script appears on the screen, I want you to speak the words out loud. Knowing your rights is the necessary foundation, but there is a significant gap between reading the law and reciting it under the stress of a real encounter. True protection requires the verbal muscle memory to execute those rights when your adrenaline is spiking. Step 1. The detention test. Most street encounters start with casual small talk. An officer might ask, "Mind if we talk for a second?" This is a tactic designed to gather information before the legal requirements of a formal interrogation ever kick in. To protect yourself, you need to identify your legal status. You are either in a voluntary encounter, meaning you are legally free to leave, or a custodial interrogation, meaning you are officially detained. To force the officer to define the encounter, you must ask, "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to go?" If the officer confirms you are free to go, turn and walk away in silence. You are not required to explain where you are going or provide a reason for leaving. If the officer states you are detained, recite this phrase: "I am exercising my right to remain silent. I want to speak to a lawyer." Say it with me now. I am exercising my right to remain silent. I want to speak to a lawyer. Forcing the officer to legally define the stop is the only way to ensure you don't unknowingly waive your Fifth Amendment protections during what feels like a routine conversation. Step 2. Traffic stops. Under the automobile exception, courts grant vehicles less Fourth Amendment privacy than homes because cars are mobile and operated in public spaces. However, a minor infraction like a broken taillight does not grant police a blanket pass to search your car. They still require probable cause or your explicit consent. When an officer asks to look in your trunk or back seat, use this script: "I do not consent to any searches." Many drivers consent because they believe their innocence makes the search harmless. But even legal items can be misinterpreted or used to establish the reasonable suspicion officers need to prolong the stop. Verbal consent acts as a legal override. Saying yes converts a legally questionable search into a constitutionally valid one, which prevents your legal team from challenging that evidence later in court. Step 3. Defending the threshold. Your home is your strongest zone of privacy. To enter, police generally must have a warrant, your explicit consent, or an immediate emergency, known as exigent circumstances. If police knock, speak through the door and ask, "Do you have a warrant?" If they do not, state clearly, "I do not consent to entry. I am choosing to remain silent." Beware the implied consent trap. If you turn to grab your ID and leave the door open, the state may argue that your actions constituted an invitation for the officers to follow you inside. Control the physical boundary. Either talk through the closed door or step completely outside and pull the door shut behind you until you hear the lock engage. The home remains a sanctuary of privacy only as long as you refuse to verbally or physically leave the boundary open for the state to cross. Step 4. The arrest protocol. An arrest is a seizure of your body. A lawful arrest requires probable cause, specific facts linking you to a crime. An unlawful arrest lacks that foundation. Regardless of whether you believe the arrest is legal, you must follow one ironclad rule: never physically resist law enforcement on the street. Attempting to argue the law or pulling away from an officer often justifies an escalation to physical force. It also leads to new charges like obstruction or resisting, which are often easier for the state to prove than the original suspicion. Focus on these 4 steps. 1. Keep your hands visible. 2. Do not explain your actions. 3. Memorize the officers' names and badge numbers. 4. Wait for your attorney to file a motion to suppress the evidence. Physical compliance at the scene preserves your legal options. By avoiding additional charges for your behavior during the arrest, you ensure that the eventual court case remains focused entirely on whether the officers had the legal authority to seize you in the first place. You now have the playbook: testing the detention, refusing vehicle searches, securing your doorway, and surviving an arrest through compliance and silence. Memorize these 3 pillars. Am I free to go? I do not consent. I invoke my right to remain silent. Your next step is to practice the invocation script out loud in front of a mirror until the words feel natural. Then, share this video with one person you want to protect. Constitutional rights are not automatic. They only protect the citizens who are trained, prepared, and ready to speak them out loud.